Welcome back. In a previous video, which I linked to up here, I showed how I make my own energy gel from bulk ingredients that you can buy off the shelf. Maltodextrin, which supplies glucose, fructose, maple syrup flavor, and salt or other electrolytes. My gel is 5 times cheaper than the off-the-shelf gels that have essentially the same ingredients. I got a comment on the past video asking for nutritional content on a per ounce basis. This is key because as endurance athletes, we are targeting a certain grams of carbs consumption per hour, and we need to plan how much to carry and how often to eat it. I found that it's absolutely crucial to weigh your ingredients. This is because maltodextrin and fructose don't have the same density. So specifically, the fructose powder that I have is much more dense than the maltodextrin powder. So you can't just add an equal, 1 cup of maltodextrin and 1 cup of fructose and have an equal carbs output. So my recipe uses 1.25 cups of maltodextrin and 3/4 of a cup of fructose. Next, I add a half cup of water, hot water. Consistency of the gel is absolutely key, and I've found that a half cup of water produces a gel that flows in all temperature conditions, but isn't too liquidy. So I pulled this flask out of the fridge, and you can see that it flows smoothly even when it's cold. That's about 37 degrees Fahrenheit in the refrigerator. I add 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of maple syrup for flavor and smoothness. So maple syrup is essentially all sucrose, which splits into equal amounts of glucose and fructose, and when your gut digests it. I add salt, and just enough to make the gel a bit salty. So salt is kind of a personal thing. If you're a salty sweater, you might find that you want or need more salt, and you might want to add a more balanced electrolyte mix that's more than just sodium chloride. So when I blend all these ingredients, I get a mix that has a glucose to fructose ratio of 1.07, which is kind of in the ballpark of what the studies are currently recommending. A little more glucose and fructose. So one batch using this menu will produce about 18 fluid ounces of gel, and each fluid ounce contains about 18.5 grams of carbs. So in my races, I carry 3.5 ounce energy flasks, which you can see here, in a top tube, and also a top tube bag, or also in my backpack. In a long race, I'll probably aim to carry about 10 of these. And so to fill 10 of them, it requires 2 batches of the gel recipe that I just gave you. So 10 of these flasks equates to 35 fluid ounces, and at 18.5 grams of carbs per fluid ounce, that's a total of 647.5 grams of carbs. So if I aim to consume 80 grams of carbs per hour, that would last me 8.1 hours of racing. So I would aim to consume 1 flask every 45 minutes or so. Or more intuitively, I'd probably plan to eat X flasks before the first aid station and so on, but you need to have a plan. So obviously you may have a different carb target, but this example just shows the kind of math that you need to do if you want to race with a DIY recipe. If you were racing with gel packs, you would have a number of calories and grams of carbs per gel, and it's easier to plan. Okay, so now that huge carb consumption is in vogue, people will tell you that you need to train your gut to handle the carbs. So that means eating the same fuel at the same rate in your training. So that's one definite advantage of the DIY system. It's one thing to spend $50 on commercial fuel for a race, but if you need to train with that same fuel over an entire season, you could easily spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on fuel in a season. So I've done 2 long events using my fuel, the longest of which was 10 hours. I had no GI issues, and I didn't bonk in either race, so take that for what it's worth. Personally, I found the added salt was very helpful. It makes the taste of the mix much more palatable, to me at least. So however, on the Steamboat Gravel Black course, which was 125 miles with 11,000 feet of elevation gain and very hot that day, I had some issues with cramping on kind of a hill about 80 to 90 miles into the race. So going forward, I'll probably add a more balanced electrolyte mix to my gel for this season. So I hope you found that useful, and let me know in the comments if you have any more questions. Thanks for your attention.